You are watching the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, your escape to reality.
Hey everyone, how are you doing?
Hey.
Hello. Where the hell am I?
What's happening, Bob?
I barely remember this. What's happening?
Evan is feeling under the weather, so he won't be joining us, and Kara's working. So it's just the boys this week.
The boys,
the Novella boys. So what's been going on? Anything active in the news?
Nothing.
The last couple of days? It's been kind of quiet.
Nothing. Slow news.
Yeah,
Slow news cycle.
I'm not that excited about anything.
Yeah.
So there's there's been two things in the news this week.
Two things.
Jack and shit. Now there's been
COVID and election.
COVID
right?
and the election. Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about the election first. We're going to try not to get too political, but just to talk about what's happening. Interesting. Here's my interesting observation. Obviously, Tuesday night, the whole thing has been torture this whole week because it's just been like, I think a lot of people correctly said it's like waiting for a biopsy result to come in. I mean, whatever side you're on, it's like you're watching the trending, of the votes and the percentage counted and trying to extrapolate. And but it looks now, as we're recording this, that while it's not a mathematical certainty, it is starting to get to be a statistical high probability that Joe Biden is going to win. He's expanding his lead in Pennsylvania, which is all he needs. He's almost got a lock on both Arizona and Nevada, and those would give it to him. He's slightly ahead in Georgia, which would be gravy. He doesn't really need it, but they're not calling it yet, so it could be still a couple more days. It could be a week, before they're officially called, because now they're counting in, the military mail-in votes and absentee votes and provisional ballots, and still counting the mail-in ballots. It's just taking a lot of time. But I think probably it'll be called probably by the end of the weekend is what we're hearing now. I think Arizona and Nevada are saying like Saturday. But a lot of the talk has been, from the pundits, especially initially, was about how wrong the polls were and how unexpected this was. But actually, if you really think about it, they pretty much got this right. I mean, depending on how you look at the numbers, right? If you look, simplistically at just like the one number, yes, it said that Biden was up by 8 points on average in the polls, but He only won by, well, he's winning by like 3 or 4 points. It's 4 million, over 4 million votes, but it was a lot less in the polls. But if you include the error bars on those polls, it's within the error margin of error.
Really?
And totally. And if you look at the more elaborate analyses, didn't just say, all right, here's the polling numbers. It said, we're going to simulate what's going to happen based upon the polling numbers, but also under varying assumptions, under varying conditions. And one of those conditions, which was a known variable, was, how enthusiastic Trump's supporters are going to be. And if they come out, that will tighten this race. It'll be much more, it'll be a squeaker. It'll be much more towards the tight end of the spectrum. But Biden probably will still eke it out. So I read, multiple different analyses which said that, and that's basically what's happening. So I don't think that this was really off.
Well, then what about down ticket though, like Senate and stuff? Wasn't that like far much more off than you would have expected?
Yes, and here's the reason. It wasn't far off, but because again, the error bars had it included what the likely result is going to be. But the difference there was that was all about vote splitting, right? That was about how many people are going to vote for a president of one party and a senator or a representative of the other party. And the conventional wisdom was that most people these days don't split their vote. But there was a lot more vote splitting than they had calculated in. That was the surprise, and that was something that they got wrong. So that was kind of a reversal, in some states. In most states it held true, but it was true in enough states that a few senators, like Collins in Maine, won, even though Trump lost the state. So and the rest of it is accounted for by the base coming out, right?
So let me ask you some questions, Steve. I'm trying to wrap my head around the numbers as well. And would you say, like when they said on average, I was reading that Biden was supposed to be 10 points ahead of Trump. If this election plays out the way that it's looking right now, is that 10 points? Is it 8 points? What is it?
So Biden was up in the last poll at polling average. He was up by 8 points. Okay. But the error bars are 2 to 3 points in both directions on both candidates. So Trump could have been higher by 2 points, let's say, and Biden lower by 2 points, and that would have put them only 4 points apart, which is pretty much where we are.
Yeah.
So, and again, that was, again, even polling is an estimation. It's not a count, and you have to make certain assumptions. Like, are you doing all registered voters, likely voters? How do you determine who the likely voters are? That's the real variable. And if you just assume that Trump voters were slightly more likely to vote than was taken into account in the polls, that pretty much accounts for the difference.
Yeah.
So anyway, there was some. That's nationwide. If you go into individual states, there were some surprises in individual states. Like in Florida, the Cuban vote broke more for Trump than people were expecting, because they were telling them that Biden was a Castro socialist, and enough of them believed it that made a few points difference. So
politics aside,
yeah.
I mean, everybody that's listening to this, most people that are listening right now know particularly what I felt, but we've been very vocal about our feelings about Trump. I think, from a science-based, logic-based perspective, with a hard analysis of all the information that we've been able to collect for the past 4 years during his presidency, I think it's pretty obvious that he is about as anti-science as you can get. And he's anti-intellectual as well. And I'm very pleased, more than I'm going to show right now about where we're at. But I think our takeaway, especially in the context of the Skeptic's Guide and skepticism, is look at what we saw right in front of our eyes, right? Sit back as a skeptic and just take a look at what we witnessed in the United States in the past 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
We saw 50% of a country get indoctrinated into a cult.
No, it was not 50%. It was more like 35%.
Okay, 35%. Let's remove. I'm sorry, 50% of the voting people. 30.
Not even. No. Let me disagree with you there. I honestly think it's like if you look at the polls on a variety of issues. I know this is derogatory, but just to saying the cult of Trump, where if you interview some real hardcore Trump supporters, they literally say he's Jesus, he walks on water. I'm quoting them. That he can't do any wrong.
Just make the correction, Steve, because I was getting to a point.
30%. But then there's 10% of opportunist Republicans who all right, he's a piece of shit, but we're going to get judges and lower taxes out of him.
I'll give you that.
But they're not in the cult. But go ahead, make your point. But it's big enough that it was a hard fought election.
Yeah, Kevin from the chat said, "Jay, just say a significant number of Americans." I will go with that.
Okay.
Hey, guys, a significant number of Americans, an absurdly large number of Americans who have access to all the information that we do, the rest of us do, fell into a cult right in front of our eyes, and they drank the Kool-Aid heavily. And it's not even the beginning as far as I'm concerned, it hasn't even started yet. We are just peeling back the cellophane layer of the beginning of this insanity that has been ensuing in this country for a very long time. But as a skeptic, especially after, last night and today, when I really got my legs underneath me and I'm like, okay, this looks like Biden's going to win. And I started to think more critically about everything. I realized here is another example why critical thinking is so unbelievably essential, and that how many skeptics are there in the world? How many of us are?
Seven,
maybe 9. But really,
how many people are watching this live feed?
But we don't. Going beyond our audience, even if there were 10 times the amount of true critical thinkers in the world than our audience, or even more than that, it's still not even close to a large number of the population. And I'm really, really deep at my core freaked out about what we saw happen here.
Yeah.
I've told you guys this many times. On Facebook, I tried to be as civil. I think I was almost 100% civil throughout the whole thing. I may have slipped up a little bit, and the people I slipped up the most with were family members. But with outside people, I never called any names. I asked people to have legitimate discussions. I did the whole thing. I wanted a single topic discussion. Just pick any topic you want. What do you want to talk about? Let's do a deep dive on the information and follow it as far as we can go. And not one person took me up. They don't want to talk. There is no discussion. And that is a cult. That's what cult followers do.
It's true, but it's a very fuzzy definition. But there's cult aspects to it. But I've read a lot about this, obviously, because it's just interested in the concept of how can people be so wrong, from my perspective. And again, they're not unintelligent. Easy. It's not about intelligence. We know that it's partly tribalism, which then fueling motivated reasoning. It's misinformation. It's existing in a different information ecosystem.
It's a bubble. They're in a bubble.
But it's not. It's all of those things. Plus, I think the big thing is, making a political position, a political party, into a culture war, a culture identity, and the realignment that happened with Trump was about solidifying the culture war, right? It was no longer about conservative or liberal or anything like that. It was all about, the coastal, liberal elites versus the real Americans. And that's it. It was all resentment, culture, identity. And so if and Trump was their warrior. It doesn't matter that he is a con artist, a criminal, a narcissist, boorish. Doesn't matter that he's engaging in an attack on our very democracy, calling into question our election just to serve his own purposes. None of that matters because he's on our side.
Yep.
And this culture wars are all that matters, and he is a warrior for our side. And therefore, they really don't want to engage with the facts because it's not about that. It's not about the facts. He's their culture warrior.
Yep.
And so that perfectly reflects that. And I think this is not going to get better until we get away from that. You know what I mean? We need to get away.
What do you mean that? Is that him? Like, you think it'll calm down a bit when he's not relevant anymore?
I don't know.
Right? What does not relevant mean, Bob?
We'll see.
Because
he can still bring it for years to come. He could still have an influence.
Well, that's the concern.
The die has been cast. I mean, Bob, think about this. All right, follow just whatever. What do we think is going to happen? Biden is going to move into the White House. One or more states are going to sue Trump. I think it's likely the man's going to go to prison. But Trump did his damage. He did the damage. He showed us. He showed to a lot of people, a lot of opportunists out there, what you can do by pandering to them, by stirring the pot that affects them so dramatically. I mean, we tried to use rational thinking. A lot of people, I saw it on Facebook. I'm using Facebook as my, as like a litmus of what's going on. I saw hundreds of people trying to reach out and talk to people. It never worked. It doesn't work. Something has been achieved here, right? And imagine if the next person that comes along is 10 times more charismatic than Trump
and more confident.
And again, and this isn't about Trump anymore with me, because I'm already past Trump. That's it. The second he lost the election, I have moved on to the next problem, and I think the next problem is that critical thinking is barely alive right now.
Yeah.
It's like we are what? What are we? The front line? What are we serving? What purpose do we serve in the world? All of us collectively, all of us, we all get it. Everybody that's on here that's listening to this gets it. We, on one way or another, you're on your path to being an excellent skeptic. But what service do we provide to the rest of the world? Where we try not to be the naysayers and the people who are downers. We're trying to educate people. We're trying to find reason in a logical existence. But mostly, like, the thing that I want skepticism to do is make life better. Just make life better for humans while we're here, because that's really what it can do. I mean, skepticism walks hand in hand with science. Science improves the quality of life for the most part. I want to get people out of their own delusional system so they can live their lives. Like, I've said this before too. Like the day that I confronted my mortality or realized I'm going to die and started my pathway to trying to accept it was the day that I think I really started living my life, because things came into sharp focus then. And I know everybody can't handle that. I know everybody isn't cut out for that, but I think most people can handle having more critical thinking in their life if you're taught young enough.
Yeah, so I think there's a ton of stuff that we need to do. And so always our default is education, right? That's what we do. Teaching people to be more critical thinking, more media savvy, more scientifically literate. Those are sort of the three pillars of skepticism now. And it's critical, and I agree, it needs to be baked in from a very young age. But that's not enough, but that is definitely part of it. I think there's some institutional things that would be good, like bringing back the fairness doctrine. I saw somebody text that in the chat, but that's huge. I don't hear anybody talking about that politically. Maybe that's the genie's out of the bottle and it's never going back, but that's a huge issue. I think the people who are trying to be sane when it comes to politics needs to be more active. We need to be more active and more activist. We need to punch above our weight, as it were. We can't just. It's not business as usual anymore. And the religious right and and now the sort of the Trumpian base, they are hitting above their weight. They know how to get to be activists and get out the vote and whatever. They are having more political impact than their numbers. And so we need to match that, because we have the numbers. We do. Again, Biden's going to beat Trump by more than 4 million votes. Yeah. And he got more votes than any other presidential candidate in U.S. history. So don't lose sight of that.
Yeah, yes, there's a lot. But you got to go. that's a nice figure, but there's more people alive now than ever before.
I know, but it's also, this is the highest turnout percentage-wise in 120 years.
Yes.
And percentage-wise, this is a solid victory. You know, he's winning with a majority of the people who voted, with millions more people.
But what are the odds of doing something about that fact? 4 million is a lot of people.
Yeah.
So can we actually have any chance in hell of making it really a popular vote election?
Well, that's not until the Democrats take the Senate. That's not going to happen. So probably not this year. Again, it's not a mathematical
probably not
impossible.
in 2 more years, because what it's going to take to pull us out of this COVID hell is going to take a lot of pain and a lot of money to pull us out of the hell that Trump put us into. So I doubt, it really feels like, even with a Biden win, that there is a bit of circling the drain here. And we have to acknowledge it, and we have to be vocal about it. And
what's circling the drain?
Well, because again, look at all the things that we learned. Excuse me. My education on politics over the last 2 years has been profound. My understanding of a lot of the history in the United States. I mean, it just, because of Trump, I had to very much focus my attention on all of this. And I admit, 10 years ago, I gleefully ignored politics because to me it was painful.
Oh, man. That's one of my points is we can't do that anymore. We don't have that luxury anymore. But listen, I think there's also another factor going on here, is that I think a lot of people are sick of Trump. They're sick of the drama, and it's like you can't be on the edge of your seat all the time, every day, in constant state of outrage. And I think that fueled a lot of the backlash, against Trump. And, it's also, keep in mind, Biden's winning with a bigger margin, both absolutely and percentage-wise, and of course managed to capture an electoral college win, which Hillary Clinton didn't. And incumbent presidents have a huge advantage, and most incumbent presidential candidates win. This is only the fourth time, I think, or something like that, ever, that an incumbent got defeated. The third in the last 60 years or something, figure like that. It's very unlikely, and so
he could run again, couldn't he? He says he's good.
Yeah, he could.
Not from prison, he can't.
Well, we'll see what happens in the next 4 years when all the investigations run their course.
Well, if you're convicted of a felony, does that automatically disqualify you then for the rest of your life?
Yeah, if you're a felon, yeah. Actually, I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
I don't know. Somebody on the chat will look it up for us. So I think that we have to have this be a massive lesson for everyone around the world. It's easy to say because I'm sitting in the middle of this complete train wreck of a situation we have in the United States, but it's heavily affects so many people around the world, and we all know it. And that's part of the stakes went way past the U.S. borders here. I mean, I have friends all over the world at this point, and every single one of them was so educated on U.S. politics and speaking eloquently about what's going on here and what impact it's going to have and has had on their country. We need to look at this like we got lucky that Biden won. We got very lucky. I was just talking to a friend of mine, and I said, if a few states had bad weather and people just didn't go to walk in vote that day, things could be very different right now, just from bad weather. We didn't there was no landslide. And another point
I don't know about that, Jay, because a lot of the voters during the day they were for Trump, and a lot of the mail-ins were more for Biden.
That's true, but it's not an insignificant number of votes, Bob. That's what I'm illustrating the point, though, that it wouldn't have taken much to lean this the other way. And think about where we would.
100,000 votes in 4 states, and Trump is president again.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not a lot of people.
No.
100,000. You go to a baseball game at Citi Field in New York, that's 87,000 people. That's not a lot of people.
I know, but it's also the same margin as Trump won by 4 years ago. It's probably going to be a little bit bigger this time around. But that's the electoral college.
It's all about the electoral college. I mean, that's the real.
That's got to go.
That's got to go. And
there's one other big thing I learned that just it was like the day that you as a skeptic, the day that you realize you don't believe in religion anymore. It was like a mounting thing that happens, and then the epiphany hits you. And it wasn't, I don't know what was it, a year ago? I'm like, I can't belong to a political party.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is insanity. What? Oh yeah, I'm a Democrat. Oh, I'm a Republican. I mean,
that's the identity thing again. It's a baggage. It's intellectual baggage, because once you identify with an ism or a party or a group or whatever, then the motivated reasoning kicks in immediately. You have to constantly guard against the motivated reasoning. Even just wanting something to happen or taking a side, immediately you start to distort it. I mean, you find yourself rounding up instead of rounding down. I mean, when you try to be aware of it, it colors everything you think and everything you perceive.
I totally agree.
So you got to consciously distance yourself from it.
I think as skeptics, we should be talking to our friends and family about abandoning party lines. Like, don't think of yourself as belonging to a party. Think of yourself as belonging to critical thinking. I know as cliche as that is,
well,
you don't pick by party, you pick by logic.
Yeah.
What's the best thing for the country, right? Just because I am right now am much more of a Democrat than a Republican doesn't mean I'm a Democrat. It really doesn't. I'm not a flaming liberal. I am a moderate. I believe in more in moderate philosophy than I do in anything else. But what is a moderate? I think moderate means I just kind of bounce around and I pick from the left column and the right column, whatever makes the most sense.
Yeah, issue by issue, just like an independent, non-aligned, politically, where you just go issue by issue, whatever makes sense, ethically, factually, efficiency, whatever. Doesn't mean you still have values, but that color those opinions. But yeah, I think that's the only way to be. Once you label yourself something, you are, again, you're inviting motivated reasoning and identity politics. And I think here's another key difference that we are experiencing. This is something that changed over our lifetime, right? When in the 1980s, this was much less true. And then over the last 30 years, 40 years, during our adult political lives, what has shifted is, I think during the golden age, if you will, previously, and there's been good and bad times throughout American history, but when we were younger, it was much better in that people were Americans before they were Republican or before they were Democrats.
Right.
And now it's not true. It's not true. People are Republicans before they're Americans. And I think it's asymmetrical. It's more on the Republican side than the Democratic side.
I know, but think about how profoundly ridiculous that is. Like, who... I don't know. This might sound just so ridiculous what I'm about to say, but who gives a flying about political parties? Who cares?
A lot of people, Jay. That's the point.
I know, but I'm trying to bring that into sharp focus. Like, think about it. It's like it's not even a sports team. Yeah. It's not even like you have a history with a sports team or whatever. It's really just making a mark in the sand and making a claim on it, because in the infinite spectrum between total conservative thinking and total liberal thinking, right? Most of us are in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Most people actually politically are in the middle. And that's why when you think about...
if you ask them about issues and divorce it from party.
Yes.
But if you say, what do you think about this issue? Like 60% of the people have a pretty much a moderate position. They say, what if this party proposed this policy, same exact policy, they'll be for it if it was from their party and against it if it was from the other party. That's what I'm saying. So you're just reinforcing what we're talking about. But, we do have to get to the point where we remember again that we are Americans first, and the other side are still Americans, and they mean well. They just have a different philosophy than you do, and that's fine.
Yep.
But once the fairness doctrine went away, again, getting back to that, especially right-wing media, again, for whatever reason, they were more successful at doing this. The right-wing media, starting with radio shows and then spreading to Fox News, et cetera, really demonized the other side. I mean, now the Trump Republicans hate Democrats, hate them. They think they're evil. They think they're evil. They think they hate America. They think they have bad motives. And it's ridiculous. It's childish.
They're pedophiles and Satanists.
Yeah, and now that's morphing into conspiracy theories.
Any lower? Can you get any lower than that?
That's QAnon.
Let's draw a line in the sand right here and say, in 4 years, when Biden and Harris are in the White House, and it's 4 years from now, and we're sitting here with the next election, right after the next election. Let's go through all the issues. Did Biden take guns away? I bet you the answer, of course, is no. Did Biden stop fracking? No. Go through all of the things that they're claiming. Did Biden like remove air conditioning from people in old age homes? I mean, you could go through the list of all the things that they're going to say, and I can guarantee you that 90% of them are bullshit. Yes, Biden's going to increase taxes on the rich. Yep. Yeah, I agree with that one, but that's not what the conservatives are saying. The conservatives are saying that they're going to just raise everybody's taxes. So that's all complete bullshit. All those talking points are complete nonsense. And again, this is a very weird, kind of revolting party loyalty to me that ultimately is meaningless. What does being loyal to a party mean in any country? What does it mean? You could say, well, this is what this party believes. But when you're in a binary system and you've got conservatism from here to here, and you've got, you've got liberals from here to here, what about all these people? You know what I mean? And again, I'll say it again, that's where most of us lie. I feel like we have the extremists driving the boat.
Yeah, right.
And that's got to end. That has got to end. Somehow, some way, that's got to go.
Well, that's the point I'm trying to say. But to make that go, partly, and maybe Biden is the best person to do this, just because he is kind of this very mild-mannered moderate. Again, there's always three sort of ways to evaluate politicians, right? There's policies, character, and competence. I think Trump sort of fails on all three, in my opinion. But even, and the thing that was most surprising is how people defend Trump on policy, even though the other two are so abysmally bad.
Yeah.
He's incompetent and he's immoral. But they say, well, as long as I agree with him on policy, I don't care about the other two. So hopefully people will internalize the lesson, get back to the point where it's like, no, you still need a baseline. You need a baseline of morality and you need a baseline of competence.
Yeah.
And policy is not enough. And even if you disagree with Biden's policies, he's at least a decent guy and he's a competent, administrator.
Yeah, I agree with that, Steve.
Even if you disagree with his policies, and that's better than somebody who you agree with maybe on policies, but who is an incompetent narcissist con artist, more immoral person. But we need to that.
Don't forget liar.
Yeah, and a pathological liar.
I have to make a clarification because somebody in the chat actually said, I don't believe that the Democrats are being driven by like this unbelievably insane socialist group of people. I don't believe that. I think it's pretty clear that the conservatives in the Republican Party are pretty extremist. And I don't agree. I think that's an important thing to say. I don't want to put them there. That is a false equivalency, which I said, and I want to clarify it. I think the Democrats largely are the sane people in this current situation. But that said, it takes two to tango, and both parties are responsible for the mess that we're in to some degree. And we let's just all agree that the system that's happening right now kind of sucks.
Yeah, it's broken.
Politics
are broken in this country, no question.
Yep.
But that's the question: how do we get back to functional politics? So we made a huge step by getting rid of Trump, no doubt, and electing somebody who is moderate, who's sort of a center-left candidate, by American political standards. I know based upon other parts of the world, it's totally skewed, but whatever. That's I think a good start, But we will see. We will see what's going to happen. The prediction is that Mitch McConnell and the Republicans in the Senate, assuming they hold on, will go back to their obstructionist ways.
Oh, you can count on it. It's going to be worse, man.
We'll see. We will see. We will see.
All right,
but
I'm not putting any money down on that because the shit that we saw those people pull, the conservative senators. I mean, do you remember in the first year that Trump was president that we were all kind of like thinking at some point they're going to just say, screw this, and they're not going to go along with him anymore. We were actually thinking that they were going to come around. Not only did they not come around, they sold their soul to Trump. They just completely went all in with Trump. I mean, watching a video of Cruz and Graham, talk about Trump 6 months before he became president, the shit that they said about him, and then watching them kiss up to him. I mean, Trump said horrible things about Cruz's wife, basically treated him like a dog. I can't look at Ted Cruz and be like,
oh yeah. But all right, but it's possible the Democrats will come within one senator of having a tie in the Senate, which then will be broken by the vice president. So what
Does that include
means
the two independents?
So, well, what this means? No, but just in terms of people, because you either caucus with the Republicans or you caucus with the Democrats. So it might probably be 49-51, right? Let's say we end up at 49-51. That means that Biden only needs to get one Republican senator to cross the line and vote for any legislation.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
And there are a few centrist Republican senators in the Senate, a few, like 2 or 3. So those are the ones they really need to be working with.
Bob,
and so it is possible. It's possible if they are willing.
Blah, blah.
You know, but that's why we will see. If they are 100% obstructionists, then all we could do is build a case for 2022. But I just want to follow up on one other thing you said, Jay, when you were talking about, the predictions about what Biden's going to do, and we know that they're nonsense.
Yeah.
Remember what they said about Obama. Mm-hmm. And in fact, you guys remember this. Like there was somebody in our life back then who said, Obama will not leave office after his second term.
Yes.
You mark my words, and if I'm wrong, I will eat crow. And of course they were wrong, and they never ate crow. They just pivoted to the next conspiracy.
They don't even remember. They don't even remember their own conspiracies.
That's right. It's just this never-ending conveyor belt of nonsense and conspiracies and new outrages and new claims. You never get to close the circle. And well, you were wrong about that. What do you think about that? We have plenty of people in our lives where we keep track. We keep track of what they say.
Yeah.
And then we like to every now and then remind them, remember when you said X and it was completely 100% wrong?
Yep.
But then they just go on to the next thing. It's like there's never any acknowledgement.
It doesn't matter.
Any acknowledgement.
They don't learn.
That never seems to have any impact. I mean, for the past 4 years, I've seen people talking about some of the things that they said about Barack Obama when he was president, and then the same thing, but much worse, was happening with Trump, and they wouldn't say the same thing that they said about Barack. I mean, to me, that hypocrisy is what really sets me off, because if you could have a belief system but be consistent with it. Don't be so biased that you're blind when it's your tribe and not the other side. To me, that's the worst.
That's the whole but that's one of the holy grails of skepticism and critical thinking. I mean, if you have to be able to turn that critical eye on yourself, and that's hard. It's very hard. All right, so
I want to say one last thing, and then we're going to pivot.
God bless you, Steve. Go ahead.
Just on hypocrisy, I just have to mention this because this is like the most immediate, obvious demonstration of hypocrisy you can possibly imagine. And at this very moment, there are Trump supporters chanting, "Count that vote" in Arizona, and stop stop counting votes in Pennsylvania. Right? Yeah. Only count votes in states where Trump is behind, but don't count them in states where he's ahead. Now he's behind in all of them, so I guess they have to change their strategy. But they were simultaneously shouting the opposite based entirely on who was ahead in the state at that moment. I mean, it's that's glaring.
I didn't realize that when I became a critical thinker, when I started becoming interested, when all three of us started to become interested in it and really started to make it our life, I didn't realize how much angst was going to come with it.
Yeah.
And how hard it was going to be. Man, it's hard. It really can suck sometimes. And that's like a burden that we have to bear, because you just look at the world so differently. Like there is no blissful ignorance. That's gone. That's gone.
All right.
Let's click over to Bob. This is Bob. Wait. Many Halloween requests have happened. We have.
Okay. Bob.
I agree. I agree with you, Steve, because we have a couple of things queued up right now. We have a special thing going on with Bob today, and people want to hear about.
Yeah,
COVID.
Let's do that.
So what do you want to do first, COVID or Bob, Steve?
Just very quickly on COVID. We'll do that very quickly because I don't want to dwell on it too much.
100,000 new cases.
120,000 new cases. We broke.
20?
Yeah, we're breaking records on daily new cases.
Blew it away.
We are in the most active phase of this pandemic in the world and in the United States right now. And at the same time, people are like, I just had somebody say to me, I'm just so tired of this pandemic. I'm like, I know, but think about it. We are in the middle of the most new cases, and hospitalizations are following, death rates are following. This is still happening. We have to, and it's probably going to be 6 months or more before there's wide distribution of a vaccine. There might be initial distribution in a few months, but it's going to take time. And it's winter, and the flu season's coming. So I'm just saying, if you're in the northern hemisphere, it's winter. So we got to buckle up, and everyone's got to get ready. Just like go back to real social distancing and mask wearing, and limiting crowd sizes. Unfortunately, the holidays are coming up. We're going to have small holidays. Just plan a small get together in a big location with good ventilation and wearing your masks and
plans
social
canceled
distancing
again.
Yeah, I know, but then we just got to suck it up. And that's just got to get ready for it. Stock up on toilet paper and dried goods, because it's going to happen. Think about it. We're spiking more now than at any time in this pandemic. Right now,
and also
right now.
I am. This week has been such an emotional roller coaster for me, and I just wish I had more calm inside of me.
Yeah,
I'm just not a calm-minded person, but. I couldn't sleep the night before last. I really was up, I think, almost the entire night. Just, it was just a bad night for me. And at one point, I'm like, we're here to take care of each other. What's the point in life? Like, one of the most important things is to love your friends and family, take care of each other, try to build a world together. Like, as crunchy as that might sound, we have to remember these things. We can't lose touch with our humanity during times like this. Like like all those people that follow Trump, like I want to know what's the pathway to get back to them. I mean, in one breath, I'm like, forget it. You can't. In another breath, I'm like, but we have to talk about it. We have to try to bridge a gap somehow. And again, who is going to initiate those conversations? And who's going to try to do that? How do we begin to do it? But we can't lose sight of the fact that it has to be done.
Yeah. A few people pointed out that, don't hoard. What I've been doing is, I just mentioned this to Jay, it's like in preparation for the winter, which I do every winter to some extent anyway. I'm just going to do it more this winter because we could have a snowstorm that could lock us in for a week. Is like every time I go to the store, I buy an extra package of toilet paper. I'm not coming home with 10 packages, but I'm just slowly building up, a backlog. Same thing with the staples, of food and everything. Start to build up a little bit of a backlog so that if the shutdown hits, you're not going to be taken by surprise like everybody else and go to the store with empty shelves where the toilet paper should be. Do it over time. Okay, Bob.
All right, Bob.
Do you think?
Now, Bob, this is very special. This is the culmination of Bob's Halloween year.
Yes.
That's number one. Number two, this will be Bob's last presentational background that he'll have for a while.
Yeah, so next week I'm going back to the robots. The robots are going to stay here permanently, and then that's it.
But Bob, most importantly,
the robots are cool. But
most importantly, Bob has all by himself. I was going to try to help him, but I didn't have time. Bob has edited a video for us.
So
why don't we
play
run
the
that now, Ian?
Let me set it up though, Jay.
Okay,
all right, go ahead.
And I apologize in advance for the damn watermark, but I wasn't going to pay $50 to get rid of it. This is the Forest of Fear that we ran this October for 5 nights, and we did 2,800 people. Everybody was very safe. Everybody wore masks. We were definitely not a super spreader event, and 2,800 people. Great reviews. We had a fantastic time. So this is the video that I took. I wish I could have made it much more polished, but I just kind of quickly threw this together literally this morning. So this is it. This is the high point. And keep in mind, this is very important, that all of these actors, they're great people. They helped us out. They're fantastic, but they're volunteers. All of these people are volunteers, and
So don't critique their terrible acting. Is that what you're saying?
Bob,
no,
you know
I'm
what,
not
Bob?
saying that.
Bob, let me do you a favor.
Yeah.
Let me say it so you don't have to. Because Bob's one of the people that runs it. Yeah, I mean, these are young non-actors in these roles. Like, I mean, you want them to do so much more, but this is basically the kids version. This isn't the adult version. But yeah, you know, you want the people that work in a haunt to actually be scary, and that, you know, they weren't. So that's what you get for free.
Somebody just said I have a nice shiny forehead. Thanks, Sam. Okay, I don't know. All right, yeah. So let's play it.
How long is this, Bob?
It's like 5 minutes.
All right, so you got to talk to us as it's happening.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Well, if you want to talk, just tell me to pause because it'll switch to whoever's active speaker. So.
Oh, wait a second. Really? Wait, I can't just talk over it? Yeah, but it won't change to the.
But it might switch back and forth.
It won't change to the active speaker if they set it to. Oh crap.
Well, wait, can't the audience actually click on the window and make that the active speaker, Ian?
No, because this is not a Zoom meeting where this is OBS.
Oh, okay. You're right. Never mind.
So crap.
I mean, I can play it in the quad, but it's going to be small.
Bob, just let him play, and then you can comment on it afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or if you want me to rewind or pause. Okay, here we go.
Please tell me the chainsaw's broken.
It's pretty trippy.
I made those hot coals.
You guys have to be quiet.
Closer. Come closer. Get inside.
That was cool.
That was my idea to animate him.
Hold on, let me rewind it just there, just so everybody can see it. Okay, here we go, and boom.
Open the box, and your soul belongs to me.
Come stay with us. Join us here. Never leave.
That's Bob.
You can't spell slaughter without laughter. Crap, he's not plugged in.
And there you go.
Wow.
That
Bob,
was impressive.
Bob, during that, I was reading the chat,
Yeah.
and I think I found my favorite comment about you of all time.
Which one?
This was from Jason Roberge. He said, Bob has more Halloween stuff than I have stuff, period.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, Bob, it was really good. I mean, because I've worked with you for so many years, I know like that is an amazing amount of work.
Oh yeah.
Everybody just saw it.
Yeah, it was a lot of work. I had two great partners, and they're very good, especially with the electronics end and the some of the more technical stuff. They're real impressive with that. My forte or fort is really the set dressing. So all the corpses are mine. The cemetery is pretty much all me, and the clowns were all me, and so a lot of that. But these guys, my partners, especially my friend Gene McNamara, put a tremendous amount of effort. He worked more than I did because he has more time during the year to actually work on this. So he did a tremendous amount of work. So he gets a lot of the kudos. But yeah, we worked our asses off. That pumpkin arch at the very, very beginning, I made that one early in the season. So I was really proud of that pumpkin arch. It looked really cool. But it was a tremendous amount of work, but it's very rewarding. Oh, that was me, by the way, the zombie that's saying brains. The really good zombie. That was my costume.
Of course it was.
And which was a lot of fun because I would go over to the people waiting in line and stay about 10, 15 feet away and just freak them out because I had a big PA speaker hooked to my back, and I would just hit buttons and play sound effects. I didn't have to say a word. It would all be just zombie noises. And that was so much fun. I loved doing that. I would take my intestines and swing them around and launch them at people. And it was just so much fun.
But, in fairness to the actors, we often go to a professional haunt in New York called the Headless Horseman.
Yeah,
right.
That's great.
Which is good. I think that's the best haunt I've been to. The actors there suck just as bad. And they are they're running up like an actual professional money making haunt.
It's very common. It's very common because when you have such a big budget for actors, I would be spending $1,000 a night on actors. So it's very hard
how
to get...
about one director?
Right, because one year 10 years ago when I did this, when I first met Jay's wife Courtney, she was working with a theatrical troupe, and so she had a few of her friends come and actually do the haunt, and it was night and day. These people became these characters. They were so good, so impressive. I paid them extra money because they were like the real deal haunt
Give me an
actors.
extra $1?
So yeah, no. So that was it was when you have a really good actor that becomes the character. It's just no comparison. Most people just default to like a startle, like they'll just yell in your ear, and that's like the lowest hanging fruit of scares. You know, the startle effect is it's so, you know, anybody could do that, but when you could really, you know, terrify somebody, that's the high point, when it's real terror, and that's very rare and very hard to do. But if you can get them to pee in their pants, that's another goal that we hit quite often.
So many stories, Bob.
So many stories.
We can't even go there. I had so much fun throughout the years. Like when Bob started doing this, it was in the basement of his house, and he would have the kids come over and go down, and we made like 3 rooms in Bob's basement. That turned into a real
little mini haunted house.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, most of the sounds that you heard in that entire video was all Jay. Jay is a master of coming up with great sound files for pretty much all of our areas. Everything you heard there, 99% was Jay.
So also, I'll just say that, because I went, I couldn't go this year because of COVID and stuff, but last year I did go to that same haunt, although it was obviously not exactly the same. But the stuff that was the same is much more impressive in person than it is on the video.
Yeah.
Like the dot room, you didn't really get the full effect of the dot room, but it really effectively camouflages the actors in there, and it really does surprise you when the wall starts moving. You know,
and it takes your brain a few seconds to see the human shape. So at first, it just looks like the wall is shifting.
Yeah,
and like, oh, it's a human shape, and then they get, it's really freaky.
Yeah, if it went by too fast, basically it's a room with glowing dots everywhere, and somebody is standing there with a completely head to toe black costume on, and he or she has the glowing dots on that costume. So when they're against the wall, you can't see them at all because they're just black with dots, just like everything else. The extra thing that we added that I've never seen before in the dot room this year was to add mirrors. So when you see the mirrors, you see lots of big dots, and then you see the smaller dots in the distance, and it's really even more disorienting. So that was an incredible idea that I think Gene came up with that idea.
Yeah. Well, good, Bob. Good for you. Good.
Good
somehow.
job.
Yeah, you enjoyed Halloween in a year that most people just couldn't because of.
There's so much to do. Sure, there was no trick or treating or very, very little, but there's so much to do. Not just Halloween, but October, the entire month. That's what Halloween has become for America, for the United States. It's a month-long celebration. It's second only to Christmas in almost every regard. It's such a huge holiday that even a lot of countries are starting to celebrate and appreciate it. And I get many people say how jealous they are that they don't have something like Halloween where they live. And Steve, if I could just talk about what I got over here, this is for my home. This is for my home haunt. And if you want to see what I did at my home haunt, go to my Facebook page. You'll see videos and pictures. But I created an army of skeletons, starting with these little guys over here, going up in size. And eventually I had life-size ones, and I had my 12-foot skeleton at the very end, and he was wonderful. He's like my best friend. But one of my favorite skeletons that I created, which is very difficult to get these guys to stand. It was just so annoying and
just let him go, Steve.
Yeah.
This guy. Some people were asking about this guy. This guy. Man, he's just in here. Basically, this is a skeleton. I chopped off his head, and I put one of those goofy skeleton like a squid or octopus, which is silly, but I don't care. So I just think he looks very Cthulhu-esque, and he's just such a cool character. He's like one of my favorite creations. And it was just so simple. When I saw it, I was like, I'm going to put that on a skeleton. So see, these are my standing skeletons, but the part of my army, and it was a lot of fun. So,
our chat is so funny. There's so much wit going on. Like somebody goes, to mention that Steve yawned when Bob turned his head.
No, that was random.
Steve's like, Ugh.
I'm just sleep deprived because I've been obsessing over the vote count. I can't go to bed. Anyway,
All right, so now let's
one
move
quick
on
thing,
to-
and then we're going to do the quiz.
Right, thank you.
But before the quiz, I just want to mention that January 23rd, Saturday, January 23rd, from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Time, you guys know what's happening. The 12-hour SGU live stream. A thank you to our patrons and all of our listeners for their support. And we do really appreciate it. We broke 4,000 solidly. We really do need and appreciate the help and the support. And we're thinking about ways to provide more and more content to the patrons to make it more and more worthwhile for everybody. We're going to be converting these Friday live streams into audio, like podcast format for patrons. So if you miss one, you could still listen to it. But the next thing is the 12-hour show. Put that on your calendars. We're actively writing it right now. It's going to be awesome. And Jay, do the quiz.
Let's get over to the quiz. So I'm going to actually pass the ball to Ian because he is that's has become his thing. He told me secretly he loves doing this. He didn't want everyone to know that.
Yes, thank you for telling everyone. Okay, so we're going to move on to the quiz. So darkenergy.games is the link. Everybody should see it in the chat. I'll post it a bunch of times more. Also, the YouTube link is there, so you can watch the live stream at the same time.
And where's our link?
A couple questions
in the chat
for Bob. And I put our link in the chat, in the Zoom chat. A couple questions for Bob while people are getting situated. What's the electricity bill for all that stuff, Bob?
Yeah, that's a good question.
It was a lot. They created an entire panel for us. I don't know. It was probably in the thousands.
Yeah, I remember. So yeah, you're right. It is an interesting memory that I have of when we did the corn maze, the original, big haunt corn maze. The electric company came out and put a telephone pole in and put a box on there, like a I can't believe I'm like a transformer, not a transformer.
Transformer.
It was just a switch box, like the circuit box. And I thought that was so impressive. Like we had to have our own circuit box put in for the haunt. I just loved that. It's a big production and it cost a ton of money for supplies and everything. Like it's remarkable that you can make money doing this, but people love it. In the United States, people love haunted houses.
Mm-hmm. If they're done well.
Right.
And then do you have another person was asking, do you have a rough estimate of the total cost and supplies for the park?
Oh, Jesus.
They're trying to get into your financials.
Yeah. What do you think, Bob? I mean, you guys,
who knows?
Don't forget though, you guys saved so much from the previous year. Like your rollover value on the haunt is incredibly
Bob's using
high.
props he's built up over the last 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, that tree, the smoking tree, like our friend Michael Whalen, who's a brilliant painter and has done book covers for the last 40 years.
He's a famous science fiction and fantasy artist.
He helped us create that tree. I mean, Bob has dozens of things with a history like that. He made, somebody helped us make, donated.
Yeah, the tree is 12 years old. A lot of those corpses that you saw, all those corpses were mine. If those corpses were real people, they'd be dead by now. I mean, that's how old they are. So it's hard to put a number to it, but we spend thousands every year, and it's all for charity. So I don't make a dime from this.
Well, you do collect a few souls every year for your collection.
Well, yeah, that happens every year. But it's not like the good old days when I was actually making money off of this. But even then, it wasn't a lot of money. It's very hard to make a living from something like this.
Yeah, but I think
you would have to expand it by an order of magnitude.
Yeah, we've talked about this. I mean, it's the kind of thing where you have to have a legit business plan with investments and everything in order to sustain it till you get to the point where you have a following where 30,000 people come every year. That takes a decade, but you could do it. And
you need a budget. I mean, every October I watch videos of haunts around the country, and there are people there that they're like, oh yeah, the past few years we've pumped in $1 million into this haunt. It's like, yeah, who's got if you've got that kind of money, that's great, but that's $1 million. That's the kind of thing you would need. Not only do you need that level of investment, but you also need a location that is a killer location.
Yeah.
Because you could have the best haunt, but if it's out in the boonies, nobody's going to come, or not enough people to warrant an entire,
it's got to be off a major artery.
You know what would be great? Would be
to do
awesome.
The quiz,
is a virtual reality haunt.
Yeah.
Because I've experienced brief ones, and they are way more scary than real life haunts.
Now you're talking like for VR specifically, though.
VR,
right?
Yeah. VR
Augmented
experience,
reality.
built for VR, because you can do effects. You could and again, it's totally immersive. Your brain totally buys that you're there. That is like one of the few times I've actually been scared, was in like a VR haunt situation.
Yeah,
I know there's stuff out there, but I don't know if there's like one like really dedicated. Just the whole point is to scare the shit out of you.
Well, there's video games that do, video games that live up to
I've
that.
played horror video games or scary video games, but I just mean like just a haunt,
Yeah.
That's a really cool idea, Steve. And also you'd have to make it can't be just like a video. It would have to be like completely interactive in so many ways, right? And that would just up it, because there's nothing like having a real object right in front of you. It makes me think of stop motion movies. Which I love stop motion movies, but they're so complex and time consuming, but they're still better in a lot of ways, better than CGI, because these are real objects that are created that you could actually look and feel.
Yeah.
So, but I do love that idea of programming and creating a haunted house that's completely interactive, but it's all CG and in VR. That's cool. Cool idea.
Lee Marsh just said that their first VR experience was Nexus. So
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That was fun. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it's an interesting.
What time is it? 6:08.
Yeah, we're getting there. We should do the quiz.
Let's do the synchronize real quick. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Doesn't matter. I'll wait till next week.
Okay, let's do the synchronize, and then we have to wait anyway, so we could get some more questions.
Okay.
When I count down and I say click, everybody click the synchronize button, which is spelled correctly with an S, if you're in England. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, click.
Got it. How do they spell it in England?
Right, cool.
The Z?
Well, it's with an S without a Z. No, Z is for, we spell it with a Z.
Yeah, American is Z. British is S.
Yeah, we Zetify it.
I wish we just.
Okay, two more questions for the.
Yeah.
But as Z and an S at the same time. 2 more questions for Bob. How long did it take to set Bob's haunt up? In general.
A month, right?
First question.
No, way more than a month.
The professional one, work started probably in August, and it's a lot, many weeks, for our old haunt 10 years ago, I calculated it was 500 man hours, but it's hard to put a number to it. But we started in August.
You just did.
True.
And then one last question: are your haunts accessible? Like wheelchair accessible?
No, not wheelchair accessible. We had stairs. We had stairs going down in this haunt. So there's no way you're going to do this, even if you had like crutches. And plus, this is in the woods. The ground is uneven, so we do not recommend anybody go through.
That's a good point, Bob. I wonder if you could make sort of an accessible pathway, even if it has to be shorter, where like this is the path you could take with a wheelchair. It's not the full path, but you could just pick a part that's as flat as possible and just make it wheelchair accessible. That would be more work, but that's something you could think about.
Yeah, some haunts can do that, but in a forest,
yeah, it'd be hard. That terrain would be really
so much
hard.
effort. It's just so much effort to make it flat and sturdy, and then it rains. Rains there. Sometimes snows.
I mean, an indoor haunt. We've been to some indoor haunts that seem very, very doable with a wheelchair. But yeah, that's a very hard thing to accommodate. Okay, let's do the quiz.
Start the game. There we go. And the first question: what is the largest animal that ever lived? Argentinosaurus, giraffe, African bush elephant, the blue whale.
Do we want to define animal, Steve?
No, animal. It's fine.
Real world animal. Non-sci-fi.
What is it going to be? The blue whale. You just can't beat the blue whale. They're gigantic.
They can grow, you put a note, can grow to 90 or more feet and weigh as much as 24 elephants.
Yeah, they're enormous. I mean,
elephants.
I've talked to people that have scuba dived right next to them, and It's like it's one of those things that you can't describe it. It's a gigantic animal. There is a virtual reality experience that you can have.
Cool.
That could, yeah, I'd like to do it. I don't know which one it is though.
Here's the next one. What is the smallest mammal? Japanese dwarf flying squirrel, a tree shrew, the bumblebee bat, ruby-throated hummingbird. Oh, Jay gave the answer before it finished? Okay.
I did?
So Jay, hold back your answer. Yeah, I guess because there is a little bit of a delay between us and the actual lag, not just the latency.
Oh, okay. So I shouldn't say anything for
so
what, 10
like,
more seconds?
Yeah, just like hold. Yeah,
a few more
wait 10
seconds.
I am sorry.
Wait for it. Yeah, I didn't know that either.
That's good to know. All right. Well, so there was an answer, and now there is another answer. I think that's long enough, right?
I think that's long enough. Yeah.
The bumblebee bat. I don't even know what the hell that is.
It's a really tiny bat.
I think they're really adorable. Bats in general are awesome.
Oh, here we go. What is the
next one? What is the longest lived vertebrate? Koi fish, bowhead whale, Greenland shark, tuatara. For anybody who hasn't seen it, look up the Japanese dwarf squirrel, flying squirrel. It's very cute.
We saw a tuatara in New Zealand.
All right, well, we're going to wait to reveal the answer on this, but we can see it. And it is, of course, it's this one.
We talked about this one on the show not too long ago.
Yeah, the Greenland shark. Of course, it's a freaking shark. They're actually monsters.
272 years?
Yeah.
Well, not really sure, but yeah, it was.
It's I think at the low end.
Years.
Yeah.
Monsters of the sea. That's what they are.
That's incredible.
Next one is.
What is the fastest mammal? A cheetah, pronghorn antelope, springbok, Thompson's gazelle.
Or somebody running out of Bob's haunt because they're scared.
Yeah. Yeah, we freaked out a lot of people. Sometimes I just laugh at him because it's like, why do you come here if you're that freaked out?
I know, right, Bob?
It's like we're not gonna contribute to your therapy. This is not gonna happen.
It's funny, like, you know, I'm looking at the list here, and you just can't beat the cheetah. You can't beat them. They're so ridiculously fast. When you know, if you see a
very
good video,
short periods of time.
Yeah, their spurt of a sprint is just ridiculously fast.
Yeah, how long can they maintain their top speed?
Not long at all. 2 or 3 hours, you know. No, it's seconds.
Here's the next one. What is the strongest mammal? An elephant,
the
strongest, tigers, or a grizzly bear?
Yeah, so if you take these 4 animals and you throw them into a cage match, who's going to win?
That's two different things, though.
You're right, but it's still interesting to think about. I'd probably give it to the gorilla. All right, so this one, the strongest animal. What is it, Ian? We're going to wait?
It is. We're going to wait. We'll just wait another couple seconds. Yeah, people are saying that it is kind of variable recently.
What, the speed?
Latency. Well, no, the latency between people getting the answers and us saying them.
Oh, I'll talk to Frank about it.
The elephant.
The elephant. Yeah,
they could like knock down trees.
Yeah, they're ridiculously strong. Their body is so strong.
And that trunk. Well, that's
All
it.
right, so let's see. Yeah, we gotta wait. We gotta finish. We gotta wait for everyone to finish.
Just let it stop. Okay, here it goes. We're gonna hit the
but if you think about the strength difference between a gorilla and an elephant, gorillas are strong, but the elephant, their body is all muscle. That they're huge muscles on those creatures. They're just phenomenally strong.
The trunk alone is all muscle.
All right, let's see who did good this year. So Denmark kicked ass. Trinidad and Tobago kicked ass. And oh no, I'm sorry. I'm seeing 4 there. Yeah, so the high score was the SGU, and then it was Denmark.
The bumblebee bat, I think, was the hardest question.
It was. And Puerto Rico came in, Costa Rica and Puerto Rico.
But nobody got zero.
Nobody got zero, which is fantastic.
Good job, everyone.
Don't let it bother you, because last week I think I got 0 too. And I wrote the freaking quiz. So don't worry about it. I'm glad that you guys like these quizzes. I enjoy them a lot. I think they're a lot of fun, and there is actually something to learn.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
couple more questions.
Yeah, let's take some questions.
Some non-Halloween related questions.
And then I will happily move on to watching the second episode of The Mandalorian tonight.
Oh yeah.
When's that? Oh, is that out already?
It's Fridays, right? Isn't it drop on Friday?
We saw the first episode last week. Very good. You watched it finally, Jay?
Oh, I loved it.
Solid. Totally solid.
I loved it.
Totally solid.
That's the next AQ6 review. We're going to review the first 2 episodes.
And I hear we haven't watched it together yet, but this season of Star Trek Discovery, I'm hearing good things.
Good.
Yeah, I got to.
We'll watch it together and then we'll review it.
Okay. All right. Yeah, somebody said that the Mandalorian episode already dropped.
Great. That's the after dinner theater.
I love that show. God, I love it. It's so Star Wars. It is perfectly Star Wars. It's better than all the shit movies that Disney just crammed down our throats. Don't get me started. That's a whole other brand where I talk about that. All right, let's take a couple of questions.
I wouldn't let you devolve into AQ6.
Okay, I won't do it. I won't do it. But, I mean, it's the Mandalorian.
But if you want to listen to AQ6, go to alphaquadrant6.com.
It's the number 6.
And also the YouTube channel, please, number 6 in your browser of choice. Here comes a question. Does the D614G spike protein mutation make any of the modes of transmission more or less contagious than before? I assume this is COVID related.
So there are mutations of the virus that's what makes it grab onto and infect cells. So yeah, the mutations are more or less infective, and the one mutation that is more infective is the one that's starting to predominate. It's not a new mutation, but it is of the variants that are out there. It is the one that is predominating, probably because it's more contagious. It's more infectious. And that's, of course, something that we're keeping an eye on. If any new mutations occur that change the behavior of this virus. I know we just started hearing about the new strain discovered in the minks in Germany. I haven't read a lot about it yet, so maybe we'll talk about it on the show next week, but I can't really do a deep dive on it now. But that's something that we're keeping track of. And the spike proteins that's the business end of the coronavirus.
Okay, next one is coronavirus related as well, or COVID-19. India death rates are apparently slowing down. Why is that?
Yeah, so we don't know. I've heard one hypothesis so far, and that is that the Indian population, probably because they're so exposed to infectious disease, that they may have a higher baseline immunity. They're just have been exposed to more coronaviruses in their life than in other countries.
Really?
So, but we don't know that. That was the only I've read about that observation. Just numerically, the death rate seems to be a little bit lower in India, and maybe that's the reason, but we don't know what the real answer is.
Okay. Next question: have any of you rogues studied or agree with the tactics of street epistemology?
Street epistemology?
I haven't heard about that.
Yeah, you mean asking people on the street scientific
questions, basically. Well,
yeah,
it's not just I think it's skeptical, critical.
I mean, but agree? What do you mean agree? Think that it's effective?
Or if you think that's the way to convince minds.
No, you're not going to convince anybody. That's entertainment. Them. So we actually, one of the early proposed segments for the SGU was street science. You guys remember that? Street science?
That's right.
Yeah.
We never
Evan and I went out and did it. Legit. We did it.
Yeah, but you sort of did some preliminary rounds just to see how it would go.
Yeah.
And then we never put it in the show because it just wasn't working out. It takes a lot of work to find answers that are entertaining and not too bad. You're not you're not being unfair to the person, but it's still entertaining. Just we weren't hitting the sweet spot, and then we kind of gave up on it. just
it was
because we
very
had other
was
easier
awkward,
ideas.
though.
It was a lot of work.
It wasn't fun. It was awkward.
It was awkward.
And talking to people, like you weren't getting like a lot of happy people laughing and enjoying it. People kind of were like, doing that to us, and that's just weird.
I think you need to be a famous comedian to pull it off. Basically,
Yeah.
that's what we decided at the time, anyway.
Yeah, we're far more talented than we are.
But that was 15 years ago that we
saying,
tried that.
I think what they're saying is that they mean the Socratic method in terms of how you.
Socratic method's great. That's what I use primarily in my teaching. But that's if you have a willing student, right? Somebody who is motivated to learn.
Right.
It's all about that. If you're just approaching somebody and hitting them up with questions, I don't know that there's any objective data on how effective that is. But it's not something that I would recommend as a teaching tool. I think it's more again about a demonstration, and then even then it's totally anecdotal by its very nature. Like it's always fun to watch people on the street give really ridiculous answers to things, but how many people did they have to interview before they got the ones that we're seeing? So I file that under entertainment, to be honest with you. I don't know that anyone's demonstrated any actual utility to it, but if somebody can study it and show that there's some way to do it that has some effect, great. I just haven't seen it.
Okay. Somebody asked any follow-up to the SGU book.
You mean our next book or the first book?
Well, both. Let's just answer both. Yes, we came out with like an extra chapter in the paperback.
Yeah, in the paperback, but that's it. That's the update. And now it went on
in
sale
China.
In October in China. We haven't had the first sales report from China yet for the book. So yeah, I think it still has a few countries that it hasn't dropped yet in. But the sales are steady. They're doing well. Do you know what format is outselling all the other formats combined?
Audio.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Because audio rocks.
And
did you update the audiobook, Steve? You did not read the updated chapter in the audiobook.
No, I didn't.
We should talk to our publisher about that.
And then we are working on a second book,
Yes.
Which we're not ready to tell you what it is yet.
We can't talk about it yet. We got a long way to go.
We won't announce it until we have a book deal. If we get a book deal, then we'll talk. Then we'll talk about it.
Somebody asked, where can I get an SGU hat? Okay, so there is a little bit more information to talk about that now. I have talked to a new company that I love, that we have purchased many, many, many pieces of swag from in the past. Like I've bought thousands of shirts from this company in the past.
Who is this?
So I'm talking to Custom Ink right
Custom
now.
Ink,
yes, and they've been incredible. Like they have an online system, they have a fulfillment system. I love their t-shirts are basically the best that I've ever purchased from any vendor. I have not seen any samples of any of their other stuff, so they're going to be sending me samples. I'm super critical about this. And I very specifically told them this is the hat that I spent 3 years looking for, this blank right here. You call it you call an unaffected t-shirt or anything a blank before you put your logo on it. And I said, can you order this hat? The patches have to be made separately. They have to be hand sewn on. I'm very particular. So if we do get to the point where they're selling this hat with this logo, it's going to be very high quality. But
Can't you just get it embroidered? No,
if you direct embroider to a hat, the best way I could describe it is like the pixel count goes down.
Yeah.
It just doesn't look as good. This is a patch, a separate. You could take it off the hat if you rip the stitches out, and they can make incredible high quality patches that way. So I'm particular about our swag, and I've every single time Ian and I put up a swag store, we end up nixing it because we don't like the quality of the material. So I think Custom Ink is going to be it. I think they're going to be where I put all of our t-shirts up and everything. So I'm at second base with them right now. I'm almost ready to pull the trigger. I just need to get my box of samples and make some final approvals. But the answer is
likely, you need to get their panties off, and then you're going to move on to the next stage.
Yeah, I would actually love to get it done before Christmas. So if people want to,
Christmas coming in old.
Yeah, you get it though.
Jay, remember this hat?
I do.
This says Haunted Corn Crew. This is the haunted house we did 12 years ago. So this is an old hat.
No,
It
I would
really, really
never
looks
sell a
at-
hat like that. See, to me, right out of the gate, I'll tell you 10 things that are wrong with that hat
Go
right
ahead.
now.
Go ahead.
All right, first of all, the material looks horrible. That material just looks like very low grade material to me. The shape of the top is
comfortable.
The shape of the top is horrible. It doesn't have any way to hold itself up, which gives you a flat looking head. The bill
It's
of
like
the
a
hat is
1920s style.
It's too shallow. It's too shallow. You see, it
I
doesn't go
like
together.
the shallow.
You
I
look
like shallow
Ernest.
hats.
You look like Ernest from Ernest
Good.
Goes to
I love
Camp or
I love
whatever.
Ernest.
The bill.
I like shallow hats.
The
man.
shape of the bill sucks. It's too long.
What you talking about?
Oh, look at that thing! Throw that fucking hat away.
No way, Jay.
And
this is, this is
and-
nostalgic. Haunted corn.
Well, you could keep it for nostalgia. And the back strap, that leather strap on the back,
Leather. It's not
whatever it's fake leather with the metal clip on the back. That not only do those hurt when you put them on your head, but they look ridiculous.
Thank you,
get me
Nora, for
started.
preferring my hat. Thank you very much.
Well, you asked. I mean, I know swag.
like a-
What can I tell you?
He's like a pseudo hat intellectual.
Yeah, somebody wants a full back hat. It might be possible to get a full back hat if they're available. You know, this is really the vendor has to be able to supply that. I would never stock a full back hat because they're sized. For the most part, they stretch a little bit, but those are a little trickier to keep in stock. Yeah, what they're going to do, I don't know if I told you this, Steve, is they're going to fulfill every 3 weeks or so. They'll fulfill all the orders that came in.
No, we have not had this conversation.
Yeah. So what they want to do is they want to do like a build up, and then they print everything, and then they ship everything.
That's fine. Every 3 weeks is fine.
Yeah, and I don't think people will care that much. I mean, if you really need something right away, you're just going to have to wait.
So Jay,
yo,
I got a Zorburger waiting for me downstairs. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we're done at 6:30.
Let's close this.
All right, guys. I had a great time tonight. We have something to celebrate because the world is a better place today than it was 4 days ago.
Slightly, yeah.
Yes. And but all is not saved. We have a lot of work to do, but I always love these live streams are so much fun to do. I love
It's
talking
good to be
you
back.
guys. Yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully Evan will be joining us next week. Carol will be joining us occasionally. I don't know what our holiday schedule is. Probably not the Friday after Thanksgiving, and probably not the Friday between Christmas and New Year.
Yeah.
But other than that, we'll probably still be doing it.
Yeah, and thank you guys for coming again to see us. It's fun to see a lot of recognizing names in the chat and everything. And I really do love reading the chat. It's very entertaining. Like we have a good group of people here. And Ian
does not like to be named or pointed out.
Does
so
not
you do
like
it
to be
anyway.
thanked and named.
Please consider supporting us at patreon.com/skeptics guide.
Yes.
Thank you, Disembodied Voice.
Number6.com. I'm a disembodied voice.
I have two things to
Um,
say. Monica said, have the future book, at least in part, read by Ian. So I just want to throw that out there. And
I love Ian's voice.
I agree. I agree with that, Ian.
We should put just a picture of Ian's face on the entire back cover.
No. Only if I could get my other face, like my face also superimposed, like looking away.
Yeah.
You know, they'd fade it in. I'll make it. I'll send it to you.
All right, cool.
And one more thing. Amy said, I love the bob hat. Pretty much the only style I would wear. So thank you, Amy.
Oh, my God. Amy, please.
Clearly good taste in hats.
Amy, call me. We need to have a fashion talk. Good night, everybody.
Night, guys.
Good night, everyone.
So long, Krabby.
Skeptic's Guide to the Universe is produced by SGU Productions, dedicated to promoting science and critical thinking. For more information, visit us at theskepticsguide.org. Send your questions to info@theskepticsguide.org. And if you would like to support the show and all the work that we do, go to patreon.com/skepticsguide and consider becoming a patron and becoming part of the SGU community. Our listeners and supporters are what make SGU possible.